welcome. I'm Robert, and today I want to discuss Too Many Bones Undertow. So, this was, I received it as part of my backing of the Unbreakable campaign. So, I got into Too Many Bones a couple months before the Unbreakable campaign came out, and I ended up loving it. Really, really love me some Too Many Bones. So finally, the Unbreakable campaign started delivering over the past couple of months, received these, and cracked open Undertow. And I just want to discuss how it compares to the original and where I stand with it. So, um, Undertow is a standalone product. You can buy it by itself, or you can integrate some of the stuff, like the gear locks, into the original. And it is cheaper than the original by about $50. And I'll say first thing I want to mention is um, I would not recommend this as an entry to Too Many Bones. As tempting as the lower price might be, the added elements to keep the formula, as an iteration of the system, the things that they did to keep it fresh, make learning it more complicated. And Too Many Bones already isn't super easy to learn. The gameplay loop it's relatively simple, but learning it can take a while. The rule book is a bit dense. There's tons of keywords. Each gear lock that you learn in of itself is kind of its own barrier to overcome learning the gear lock. Okay, maybe being a bit harsh and it is fun to learn the intricacies of your gear lock, but you're not gonna be able to immediately pick it up and start playing. Learning a gear lock is a process. So you add on top of that the stuff that they added to keep the formula fresh, like the new 3-point enemies, the new spaces around the grid, the two sides, the campaign mode. It's fun. It's just I would not recommend this as an entry point. So if you're interested in getting into this, do not get Undertow for that. Okay. So want to make sure I mentioned that first. Now, so what did I end up? What have I done so far with this? So I've only played with Duster solo, to try her out and to learn her. I just played a one-off Tyrant game against Barnacle, and then I did a campaign solo. And this is the end of the campaign. I've been Nobulus, day 14. And it was a lot of fun. I really like the things that they did to keep it fresh. As I mentioned already, a new enemy type with the 3 points, the campaign element, which is pretty interesting, the two-sided board, the extra spaces around the board and how they function. Let me just show you there. That's a water side, okay? So very interesting. I like that it's standalone. Comes with two gear locks. I have not tried Stanza yet. I typically my preferred player count for Too Many Bones is controlling 3 characters. All right, but I do like playing solo, like most players do, to get used to the gear lock. So I'll probably repeat what I did here. I'll play a solo game of Stanza, and then I'll do a campaign with Stanza to get used to how she works, and then I'll move to 2-player and then 3-player. So there's a lot of for me to explore here, and I also included Gasket in that box to then reach the three-player count. For now, I don't really plan to interchange the the move around the gear locks from Undertow into base game and vice versa. The way that I'm treating this on Unbreakable, I'm just gonna treat it as its own product with Gasket, and I kind of like it that way because I think the amount of gear locks is just it's a lot, and I kind of like that Gasket is part of this cycle, so I can reach my 3-player count with just Stanza, Duster, and a Gasket. So this can be like its own box. The only element that I share between the 3 games, the base game, Unbreakable, which I need to try still, and this is the premium health chips. That's it. But Other than that, they're their own box. So yeah, so very nice standalone version. The campaign element was interesting. Um, it I played it on easy just because I know at that player count at solo it can be a bit brutal early on. But as I increase the number of gear locks, I do increase difficulties. So I've played up to the hardest level, and that's like the real where a lot of the meat of the game is that it's a lot more challenging. But just wanted to have fun. Didn't want to worry too much about difficulty, and I didn't want to get punished by not learning the intricacies of Duster yet. But yeah, I did have a blast. I do feel like this, the original base game has a lot of content, but this is a very worthwhile addition. Definitely not something again I would recommend to start the to get your dip your toes into this game system. Duster was a lot of fun to play. By the way, I haven't really commented on her yet. She was interesting to play. She was interesting to play. I like the dire wolf and the leveling it up. Very interesting. The tyrants are fun. I really like the flipping of the mat for the water and land encounters. And I like how how much game you can fit in this small box. It's just awesome. And the tactile feel awesome as usual. Signature part of this game system, just how awesome it feels to hold the pieces and roll the die. It's just excellently, just very well done. But yeah, that's what I got for this. If you like the base game and you want to add more, I do recommend you get this. Just be prepared for uh, those extra those extra rules that they're gonna add to keep things fresh. One criticism, though, I do have, and I think it's also an issue with the original. Some of the encounters have, they try to keep the encounters interesting, so they have these weird setups, and they don't explain them fully, and you will be required to go on Board Game Geek and look up answers, and that annoys me a bit, honestly, because I think this is, let's see, the rulebook. This is the version. Okay. 2.2. So this is a 2.2 version, right? And there's tons of things that are unclear about these encounter cards that you have to go and look up. And I'll give you one example here, spoilers in case that you care later when you encounter this guy. Unlike other tyrants, Nobulus, the dice, you don't roll them during his turn. You put them in the initiative track and then they're rolled individually later. But what if him or his abomination partner, what if they're not in the mat? Do you still roll them or not? That's kind of an important detail and it doesn't tell you. So I had to go look that up. There's an FAQ here. Yeah, it really should have more pages explaining little things like that about the encounters that are not clear. And you could make a rule on the go, and you might be right, you might be wrong. You have a 50% chance, but you better have a good internet connection and keep the rules section open on your phone while you're playing this. At least the first time you play it, because I ran into this issue often with setting up some of these encounters with different setups, which they try to keep it fun, but they make it complicated, and I know there's a restraint with fitting too much text in the card, which I get it. I don't want to have like microscopic text explaining every little detail either. But nice FAQ with some clarifications about certain encounters would have been nice. But okay, now I want that's it as far as my commentary. Recommended, awesome product, and I now want to talk about how I fit a lot of the extra content in there. All right, I always like talking about storage, so we're gonna move on to that, and let's look at storage. All right, so let's see how much we can fit back in this box. So the game already provides a pretty good storage solution. It does leave a bit of room for you to add one, maybe two gear locks if you don't add expansion content. So what I fit here is the original content plus a gasket as a third gear lock, which is part of this cycle, anyway, as I mentioned earlier. I've also added the 40 Waves in Dalor content and also the Rage of Tyranny content, which that expansion adds more to Undertow and the original base game. So I split it and I added to this box what's supposed to belong here. So you got your rulebook on top, and here's what I added to this. I originally thought of getting the trove. I opted not to. I had second thoughts about the price and whether I even, whether I even wanted to store it that way, like everything in one box, because I didn't end up buying everything. I skipped the splice and dice content, and that cycle I skipped it. Maybe I'll get Dart one day, but other than that, I skipped that content, right? What I did was I 3D printed 3 of these. I actually 3D printed a bunch so that I could store everything neatly for base game, Unbreakable, and Undertow. So this is what it looks like, okay? And I added some of those plastic chips so that it brings the gear lock on top. The STL file is supposed to come with a puck that does what I'm doing there with the cheap health chips, but I wasn't able to print those. That is part of the STL file, so I just added those chips so that the gear lock is in front there. So there's a pretty good storage solution for your gear locks so that you can fit them neatly in there and bring them out to the table as you saw earlier when I was doing the sharing my thoughts, how I had the duster box there. So I fit gasket, duster, and stand sign there. Now I never really pulled this out because these are the included chips that are kind of fiddly. I highly recommend you get the premium chips. So what I do is I share the chips in between the boxes. I just keep the premium chips in their own box, and I keep each of these standalone. So I never really pulled this box out. This is these chips right here are the 40 waves in Delaware content, okay? But I think it'll be a while before I get to that. So 40 waves of Delaware and included health chips. And here you got your encounters. All right, and the epilogue cards and the campaign cards, okay? All right, so then we got everything else, which is the loot and the tyrant, the tyrant encounter and cards, and the day counter. I also, so the one thing that is, there's a couple of things that are loose here because I could not find something narrow to fit them in. So you got the tyrant die, all right? So I just separate those when I open the box. And then this is the Rage of Tyranny content. It's labeled. I wrote it in the bag. And here what I have is, when you set up the game, you always need to bring this stuff out. So you have the day counter, you have the initiative die, the D6, the round die, and I use this to keep track of whose turn it is. So no matter what, these dies need to come out, so I keep them separate. So I just open this and I put it next to the mat, basically. I bring out all the contents, and those are just a couple extra die for keeping track of effects and whatnot. And it's a tight fit, but there you go. All right, so I already showed the contents of that. 40 ways of Delaware, I never really talked about it, but and so there's the 40 days in Delaware, 40 waves in Delaware, and the Rage of Tyranny content, okay? It all fits in there. There, okay? All right, so then you got all the other dice. These are the other chips, so the baddie number, the wreckage, the tyrants, and then the numbered baddies. So this sits next to me. I bring this out of the box and put it next to the mat during gameplay. The rest of the die, just open this and keep it nearby. Alright, I already explained this rarely will see use, so I don't really open it. And then you got all the mats, and then at the bottom you have the reference sheets. So you got the gear locks here. Maybe if you might fit a no, I think that you will have to not like to skip including one of the expansions if you wanted to fit a fourth gear lock in here. But you can comfortably fit 3, and I don't really see myself ever playing with 4 anyway. Okay, and then you got the reference sheets. So I use a paper cutter and I remove the sticky part of the reference sheet, but I do like keeping the bag. And there you go, you got everything else. So the couple other elements that I like to bring in when I play this, a little dice tower, which you saw earlier during my thoughts. So I bring the dice tower, but the other thing that helps a lot is this. So this is a poker card holder, all right? And you put the reference sheets on top of this, and in front of you, you saw that in the shot earlier, before in the previous section, and it really saves some table space and it keeps the reference at a glance. When I reach the second or third gear lock, I like having 2 of these next to each other so that I can add the gear lock reference sheets. So it's like I'm surrounded by the reference sheets, and it really saves a lot of table space and it gives me a lot of the information at a glance. So I recommend you get these when playing Too Many Bones. It really saves a lot of table space and it makes the setup and playing a breeze, having all the information. But yeah, there you go. So that's how I store it. And like I said, I know that my approach might be a bit different. Keeping all the content, like their own chapter or whatever, standalone. Some folks will like to have everything stored in one place, so I can respect that. I think this is the way that I'm gonna do it. But there you go. That's storing Too Many Bones Undertow. And thank you so much for watching. If you folks have any questions, any feedback, any comments, please put them in the comment section. And if you enjoy this content, please like and subscribe. And I'll see you in the next one.